Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, February the 3rd. We are going to cover Monday's 10-game slate and go position by position. Talk about the plays that stand out to me the most, looking at this slate the night before. We'll talk about DraftKings pricing, and we'll go over to Yahoo, and we'll hit on some guys that I do like over there as well. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. If you have not yet, you can click that subscribe button as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. Also, if you haven't yet, you can also follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. I am very active over on Twitter, so if you want to give me a follow, I would greatly appreciate it. You can also check out my Patreon content that is linked down below. I do put up NBA content over there Monday through Friday. I have an article that I write that I'll post in the afternoon. Very in-depth article highlighting all my favorite plays. I do give updated core plays as well over on Patreon, and I also have a Discord chat that you can join where I'm in there throughout the day, along with all the other Patreon members, talking through the slate, answering questions, just trying to help each other out. So you can check all the Patreon content linked down below. It is the beginning of a new month, so those are usually the best times to join. If you've ever wanted to join, I would recommend joining at the beginning of the month, so that way you do get the most value out of your money. But let's go ahead and take a look at point guard for Monday's slate. At the top, Luka Doncic remains out, so we don't need to touch on him. Trae Young, big injury to watch today, and just overall on this slate, this is a slate where we do have a lot of injuries to watch. A lot of guys out, a lot of guys questionable as well. Trae Young is questionable heading into this game against the Celtics. He played till the end of the third quarter in that game against Dallas, and then we got word that he had an ankle injury, wasn't able to return. Right now, the Hawks have him listed as questionable. This is obviously very big news to watch. If he plays today, I think Trae Young is definitely in play. Normally, the Celtics are not a team I like to attack, but they are going to be without Kemba Walker. They could potentially be without Marcus Smart as well. They're not going to be a bad defensive team. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, these guys are still really good defenders, but their defense does get a little bit worse when you take guys like Kemba, Smart off the floor if they are out today. If Smart's out, we know Kemba's going to be out. But Trae Young at 10K, especially when he's at home, I always like to target Trae Young at home. Does play a little bit better there. I think this game can stay close, especially if Trae Young does play, given how injury depleted the Celtics are right now. So he's probably my favorite point guard to pay up for, especially given Luka's out and we don't have him to go to. 9,100, I don't really like Ben Simmons. Kyrie's going to be out today, so we don't need to talk about him. D'Angelo Russell isn't a great spot, but he's another guy that's listed as questionable. If he plays today, at his DraftKings price, I don't think I'm going to play much of him at that salary. It's just tough to play Russell at 8,900. I think Yahoo's where he stands out the most. Looking at their pricing, he's $35. If I'm going to play D'Angelo Russell, it's probably going to be there. It is a great spot against the Wizards. We know how good this matchup is. The Wizards play at a really fast pace. They're 6th in pace this season. They are dead last in defensive rating. This has just been a matchup we've targeted all season. So I like Russell more on Yahoo than DraftKings today. Ricky Rubio was out Sunday. If he's out again, a slight bump up to Devin Booker. I would have a little bit of interest in him at 8,600. Spencer Dinwiddie, though, definitely a guy we need to talk about. So with Kyrie Irving already ruled out, that is pretty big. That does obviously give a big boost to Spencer Dinwiddie. He's 8K on DraftKings. He's pretty expensive. They did bump up his price for Kyrie being out. So he's not a must-play by any means, but I think he definitely stands out as one of the better options at point guard if you want to pay up for him. Yahoo, I think that's where he stands out the most. He's $32 over here. He's closely priced to D'Angelo Russell, so he's not a must-play on Yahoo either. But I definitely think that's where I want to get my exposure to Dinwiddie is $32 on Yahoo. That's still $5 to $6 too cheap. When we had that stretch where Kyrie was out, Dinwiddie was a $38, $39 player during that stretch. So he's still $5 to $6 too cheap on Yahoo today. With Kyrie off the floor, he obviously gets a big boost. We'll take a look at the numbers with Kyrie off the floor. Taking a high-usage player like Kyrie out of this lineup is going to benefit a lot of players, and Dinwiddie, obviously one of the guys that benefits the most. We'll talk about some value that maybe we could target from the Nets with Kyrie out. A guy like maybe Karis LeVert we could look to. But Dinwiddie played a ton this season with Kyrie off the floor. 33% usage rate, averaging 1.24 fantasy points per minute. Nearly a 38% assist percentage. Looking at the differential, he does see a 2% bump in usage. Karis LeVert sees a 4% bump in usage, so I think those are probably the two guys I want to target the most from the Nets today, and Spencer Dinwiddie definitely stands out. At 8K on DraftKings, though, he's not a must-play by any means. If he was still 7,100, 7,200, then he would definitely be probably one of the top plays. At 8K, you don't have to force him in. I still think he is a really good option, though. But then other guys we could look to, another big injury to watch today is Derrick Rose. Also, he got hurt Sunday. Was not able to return, kind of similar to Trae Young, except Trae Young got hurt Saturday. Rose got hurt in Sunday's game against the Nuggets. Wasn't able to return. He's listed as questionable, I'm assuming, heading into today. We don't have an actual update on his status, but he was ruled out for the remainder of Sunday's game. I'd say he's questionable today. If he's out, we'll talk about the guys that will benefit there. John Morant, like this matchup a lot for him against the Pistons. He's only 6,800 on DraftKings. He burned me on the last slate. I was very heavy on him against the Pelicans. I'd be fine going back to him today. It's a really good matchup. The price tag's still very appealing as well. Draymond Green's in a really good spot. 6,500 is a pretty expensive price, but especially if like D'Angelo Russell were to be out today, that would be a boost for Draymond Green. So I think he is a guy you could look to in this mid-range. Jalen Brunson, I do want to talk about. So he actually started last game with Luka out. We saw them go with JJ Barea in the starting lineup, but given that it was a back-to-back, they decided not to start Barea and they just rested him. Brunson got the start and played really well, had 44 DraftKings points in 27 minutes. Given how well he played against the Hawks in that game on Saturday, I'm assuming Brunson starts today, which makes him a really good option, especially on Yahoo, where he's still very affordable. Only $14. I think he's one of the better values over on Yahoo as of now. DraftKings did bump up his price a lot. I mean, he's up to 6K. He's not out of play for me at 6K, but not a must-play by any means. He is a fantasy point per minute player, though, with Luka off the floor. If he gets like 30, 32 minutes today, he could still pay off the 6K price tag, but I think I have the most interest in him on Yahoo at that $14 salary. But regardless, if Brunson starts again, he's a really good option. Rubio's price has plummeted on DraftKings. He's been really bad lately, but 5,500 for Ricky Rubio in a really good matchup like this against Brooklyn. Like, he definitely stands out. He put up 51 DK points earlier this season against Brooklyn for what that's worth. If he plays, I have a lot of interest in Ricky Rubio at that salary, but that'll just kind of have to be news that we wait and see on. If D'Angelo Russell is out, I think Alec Burks at 5,300 becomes a very strong option. Would be a guy I'd consider. In terms of value plays, though, there is definitely some value here. Obviously, if Derrick Rose were to be out, that would boost a guy like Reggie Jackson, but I think even if Derrick Rose plays, Reggie Jackson looks really good, only 4,700 on DraftKings. Got 34 minutes last game. Obviously, Derrick Rose getting injured in that game did help Reggie Jackson, but even like the last few games, his minutes have been increasing. I mean, this is a guy that's going to play 30 minutes a night, if not more, even when Derrick Rose is healthy. And if Rose were to sit, that would just boost his minutes even more, make me feel even better about his minutes. And he's done really well in this matchup already this season. Limited minutes, only played 23 minutes against the Grizz, still had 30 DK points. This is a big-time pace-up spot for the Pistons. The Pistons are just kind of like towards the bottom of the league in pace, I believe. Yeah, the Pistons are 24th in pace. We know the Grizzlies, they like to push the pace. They are third in that regard this season. So really good spot for Reggie Jackson. I would like him even more if Derrick Rose is out, but just given that $4,600 salary, I think he stands out as one of the better values right now, especially with his minutes increasing. It seems like he's no longer on a minutes limit. On Yahoo, he's very cheap as well, $16. I think you can plug him in as a point guard value over there as well. And then looking for other cheap options at point guard, I think going back to the Pistons, Bruce Brown also looks really good, especially if Derrick Rose were to sit. Now, this is a guy that I'm only going to play if Rose is out. I think if Rose plays, I really don't have any interest in Bruce Brown. Like, he's only probably going to play about 20 to 22 minutes off the bench if Rose is active. But last game, with Rose getting hurt, we did see Bruce Brown get 38 minutes off the bench, nearly had a triple-double, had 19, 10, and 8. It's possible that if Rose sits, it's either one of Jackson or Brown's going to start. These two guys, though, they can play alongside each other. We saw them close out the game. Like, they can play Bruce Brown at the 3. He'll most likely close out the game over someone like Tony Snell or Svi. So I like playing both guys together, especially if Rose is out. I think you can play both guys together. Love that Bruce Brown has small forward eligibility on DraftKings, which makes him very appealing. It's a bit tougher to play Bruce Brown on Yahoo. He is cheap over there. He's $13, but when you have Jackson for $3 more, you have Jalen Brunson at only $14. Probably going to limit my exposure to Bruce Brown only on DK, especially because of his cheap salary, and you can play him as small forward. I have a feeling that Detroit's probably going to be a team we look to for value today, especially if Rose were to sit. But if Trae Young's out, I was blanking on the name. If Trae Young's out today, Jeff Teague, 3,900 would be a very chalky value play, but I'd be fine eating that chalk. I know Jeff Teague's failed this season when Trae Young's been out. Like, I know Trae Young missed a couple of games and Teague really didn't do that well. He's 3,900. He's going to play about 30 minutes. I'd still be fine playing him as a value. He would be a really good value play. Let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. We'll talk about this position. So Bradley Beal up to 10-1 on DraftKings. Really good spot against the Warriors, but not a must-play by any means at this salary. Now, the dude's been awesome as of late. Over 50 DraftKings points in like 6 straight games. Been very consistent, playing big minutes. This is a game I expect stays close. It's just there's other studs I like today, especially like this mid-range. I think this mid-range is really strong. I'd rather play Trae Young for just $100 less if he's able to play today. I think even Cat at 10-6 looks really appealing. You have Drummond for cheaper than Bradley Beal. Then we're going to get into like some of these 7K guys like DeAndre Ayton I really like today. You got the Boston guys potentially without Kemba, without Marcus Smart. You got Porzingis still affordable at 7K. So don't think I'm going to be spending over 10K for Bradley Beal unless we just get like an immense amount of value and I can easily fit him in. I think shooting guard's probably a position I go to some of the guys I've already talked about, like Spencer Dinwiddie if you wanted to play him here. I think the Boston guys look really appealing today. Great spot for them against Atlanta. We already know they're going to be without Kemba Walker. They could potentially be without Marcus Smart as well. So guys like Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, these guys are going to really benefit. They will see an increase in usage. Their fantasy point per minute averages increase as well. I think Brown at 7,600 on DK is still in play, even though he got a big price bump up. Just given the matchup, the increase in usage with Kemba off the floor, he can still pay off this price tag pretty easily. I mean, he put up 47 DK points in 36 minutes against the Sixers last game he played in. Against the Hawks this season, they already played once, 35 minutes, 42 DK points, and I think that was with Kemba Walker playing, if I'm not mistaken. I can check that real quick. Let's see. Oh, Kemba was actually out that game, so when Kemba was out earlier this season, Brown did put up 42 DK points in 35 minutes against the Hawks. I'd have to project him for similar numbers today, if not better, so he's a really good shooting guard option. I think he's one of the better options along with Spencer Dinwiddie. Just other guys we could look to. Even if Smart plays today, with Kemba out, like Smart gets a boost, but it's 6,600. I mean, not a must-play by any means. I think he had a really good game against the Hawks. Yeah, he had 46 DK points in 35 minutes. That was with Kemba out. I don't think he scores 46 DK points again. 6,600 is just too expensive of a price tag to pay for Marcus Smart, even with Kemba off the floor. So, really don't have a ton of interest there. I think Buddy Hield in a big-time pace-up spot against the Timberwolves looks pretty appealing at 6,200. Even with him coming off the bench, like he's still getting big minutes, 30, 38 minutes. Some of these games were blowouts, like against the Clippers, OKC. Both those games were blowouts. In close games, Buddy Hield's going to play 30 or more minutes. And in a big-time pace-up spot like this, I think he looks pretty appealing. You can go to Jalen Brunson here as well if you want to use him at 6K. Tim Hardaway's fine, but at 5,600, like he's not a must-play by any means. With Luka off the floor, he does get a slight bump in usage. I think if I'm going to play Hardaway, it's going to be on Yahoo. That's where he stands out the most. Still really cheap over there, only $16. I think that's where the Mavs look the most appealing is Yahoo, just because they're all still affordable. Brunson 14, Hardaway 16. We're going to talk about Porzingis. He's still affordable on Yahoo. So tough to get to Hardaway at 5,600 on DK. Especially if Trae Young were to be out, I would rather play Kevin Huerter for 200 less. If D'Angelo Russell's out, I would rather play Alec Burks for 300 less. Those guys I like more. Even Bogdanovich at 5,300 in a big-time pace-up spot against the Timberwolves I have some interest in. In terms of value, though, at shooting guard, Seth Curry is out. He hasn't been starting recently, but he has been getting pretty big minutes off the bench, like mid to upper 20s in minutes. With him off the floor, maybe we could see J.J. Barea and Jalen Brunson start alongside each other. If that were to be the case, like if J.J. Barea does get into the starting lineup, I mean, he's 4,400 on DK. He's a very high-usage player. I would like him a bit, but I don't really want to play Barea unless he's starting. The minutes are just too hard to predict with him coming off the bench. But if he starts, I would have to assume he gets probably 22 to 24 minutes, if not more. And with how productive of a player he is, especially with Luka off the floor, he would be pretty appealing for me. Miles Bridges is going to continue to play pretty heavy minutes in the starting lineup, 30-plus minutes in 3 straight games. The production is going to be inconsistent, but this is a pretty good matchup against Brooklyn. So he's a fine guy to look to. I know he's really cheap on Yahoo if you want to use him there. And then obviously a guy like Jeff Teague would be a really good value if Trae Young's out. If Marcus Smart is out, I think Brad Wanamaker probably becomes one of the best value plays on the slate. If Smart were to sit, it would most likely be because Marcus Smart, with Kemba out this season, has been the starting point guard. But if Smart were to be out as well, it most likely means that Brad Wanamaker moves into the starting lineup and gets the start at point guard. And at 3,600 against the Hawks, it'd be really hard to get away from him. He would be probably the best value play on the slate. Probably gets upper 20s, if not 30s in minutes. And at 3,600, without Kemba, with potentially out Smart, really going to be hard to get away from him. So I'd probably lock in Wanamaker. But not knowing the Smart news right now, I'm going to just leave him out of the core plays. I will post updated core plays, though, over on Patreon if you do want to get access to those after we get all this injury, or after we get all of these updates on injuries. But now small forward, Kawhi at 10-3 against the Spurs. If you want to call this a revenge game, I guess you can, but I don't really like Kawhi at 10-3, especially with Paul George back. There's other guys I'd rather pay today. Honestly, I'd rather play Bradley Beal for 200 less. I'd rather play Towns for a little bit more. So I don't think I'm going to be spending a small forward at all. I mean, DeRozan I don't really like with Aldridge back. Ben Simmons I don't like in this spot, especially with Embiid back. He's still expensive at 9,100. I think, again, the Boston guys look really appealing, especially without Kemba. Jason Tatum, he really stands out on DraftKings as one of the more underpriced players today. He's only 7,500 on DK. Last game against Philly with Kemba out, Tatum did only play 29 minutes. They were going to limit him. They said he would, I can't remember what the report was. It was he was no longer on a minutes restriction, but he wasn't going to play 36 minutes. And he got 29 minutes. It was a blowout. In those 29 minutes, he was very productive, put up 40 DraftKings points. I mean, with Kemba off the floor, that's going to help a lot of these guys. Kemba's a high usage player, so taking him off the floor, there's going to be a lot of beneficiaries. And we will take a look at the numbers with Kemba off the floor this season. Jason Tatum gets a boost. Gordon Hayward gets a slight boost. Brown gets a slight boost as well. But Tatum's been one of the biggest beneficiaries. His usage rate's up to 33% with Kemba off the floor, averaging 1.26 fantasy points per minute. With all these Celtics being similarly priced, I think Tatum's my favorite guy to go to at 7,500. And that's one of the reasons I didn't include Jaylen Brown in the core. Although I do like Jaylen Brown a lot, I think Tatum, he's still probably $500 to $1,000 too cheap on DK. So I like him the most there. Between the Boston guys on Yahoo, he'd probably be the third for me because he's $36. Hayward is $28, and Jaylen Brown is also $28, or Jaylen Brown's $29. So it would be close between Brown or Hayward on who I like most on Yahoo. I think given the shooting guard position, I'd probably prefer to go to Jaylen Brown over Hayward, but both guys look very appealing. I mean, Hayward's at 28. His price came down a little bit, so I do like those guys more than Hayward on Yahoo. But on DK, I do like those guys more than Tatum on Yahoo, but on DK, Tatum's the guy I like most at 7,500. But just have a feeling I'm going to be stacking up this game a lot, especially if Trae Young were to be out and if Marcus Smart were to be out, you're going to get a lot of value from this game with Wanamaker, with Jeff Teague. You get some elite stud options with Tatum, Hayward, Brown, these guys getting increased usage. Kevin Huerter, John Collins would be strong plays as well. A lot to like from this Boston-Atlanta game just in general. Kelly Oubre, I think still remains a little bit too cheap on DraftKings at 7,100. Have some interest in him. Talked about guys like Draymond Green, Buddy Hield, if you want to go to them. I think they're in play. Just looking at other small forwards, though, not much stands out in this 5K range. TJ Warren is out today, so maybe a guy like Jeremy Lamb gets a boost. With Victor Oladipo back, that has hurt Jeremy Lamb. That's going to hurt his value just in general. Jeremy Lamb is always a frustrating player to roster just because you never know what you're going to get from him. But taking Warren off the floor should solidify his minutes a little bit more. He's 4,900. You could definitely use Jeremy Lamb as a value small forward today. I think he's the guy that stands out to me the most if I'm going to play a cheap small forward. Cam Reddish is out. If DeAndre Hunter plays, he would be a pretty good small forward value as well for 4,400. But that'll just have to be news we kind of wait and see on. So yeah, I think that's it for small forward. I think we covered everything here. Let's go ahead and talk about some power forwards now. So at this position, I think the main plays that really stand out to me, John Collins, if Trae Young's out, tough matchup against Boston, but I would still have some interest in him at 8,300. But the guy I mainly want to talk about at small forward or at power forward is Kristaps Porzingis. I think Porzingis looks like a great option at 7K on DraftKings. People were concerned about his minutes on Friday night. It didn't really matter. He wasn't limited at all. The minutes were there. He played 36 minutes against the Rockets, 56 DraftKings points with Luka off the floor, had 35 points, 12 rebounds, and 1 block, 2 steals. This was the front end of a back-to-back. They did have a game on Saturday, and Porzingis did not play Saturday. So I'm expecting he can get 30-plus minutes again, given that he played 36 minutes in their last game. and the price tag didn't move. He's still 7K on DraftKings. I mean, this is a guy that we were paying like nearly 9K for when Luka was out. We're still getting him in a really good discount. I think he's one of the top plays today again. I'm locking him in on DK. On Yahoo, I think he's a really good option there as well, $33. Still remains too cheap on Yahoo as well. You can play Porzingis at center, but we'll go ahead and plug him in at the forward spot because there is a center that I like that we'll talk about in a second. You do have some positional flexibility when you do roster Porzingis. I mean, I know I showed it in my video on Friday, but we'll take a look at the numbers again just so you guys can see, maybe if you didn't watch Friday's video. When you take Luka off the floor, there's a lot of beneficiaries. We could take Dwight Powell off the floor as well because Dwight Powell is out now, so could be some more beneficiaries with Powell and Luka both off. So Porzingis played 252 minutes this season with both Powell and Doncic off the floor. Nearly a 29% usage rate, averaging 1.37 fantasy points per minute. Sees a big boost in his rebound percentage. It does increase about 4%. His assist percentage at 12%. But looking at the differential, that's where you see the biggest jump. I mean, 3% bump in usage, 0.19 bump in his 0.19 fantasy points per minute more, which is a very massive bump. I mean, as you would expect, Kristaps Porzingis does see a big boost with Luka off the floor, and while he still remains at this salary on both sides, 7K on DK, $33 on Yahoo, I'm just going to continue to roster him. But other power forwards that we can maybe look to, I think at the same price, Kevin Love looks pretty appealing against the Knicks. I think you can definitely go there, or he's 100 more than Porzingis, but I do like him against the Knicks. I think he's in play today. Other power forwards, though, Jaren Jackson Jr. feels a little bit too cheap against the Pistons, 6,100. He did get suspended their last game, but he's playing today, so I expect he's a full go and gets 30-plus minutes. Put up 44 DK points in 30 minutes against the Pistons earlier this season, if you care about that. It is a good matchup. The Pistons are not good defensively, so I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is in play. Bielisa I like quite a bit in a big-time pace-up spot against the Timberwolves. I think it's 6K. He's a guy you could look to. Thomas Bryant, although he hasn't been starting, he's been getting pretty big minutes off the bench. 25 minutes against Brooklyn, 23 minutes against Charlotte, 32 minutes against Milwaukee. I assume he plays about 26 to 28 minutes a day coming off the bench. I wish they would start him. I think eventually he's going to wind up starting eventually. I know Mo Wagner and Rui are both expected back, which is going to make their front court much deeper than it has been, but I still expect Bryant to get solid run off the bench, and against the Warriors, a really good matchup. He would be in play for me. Larry Nance has been getting big minutes off the bench, pretty solid run, about mid-20s to upper 20s in minutes. We know how productive of a player he is, so even in 26 to 28 minutes, Larry Nance can easily give you 30-plus DraftKings points. So he's a guy you could look to at 5,400. I think Taurean Prince at 5,100 is in play. With Kyrie out, I would imagine Prince gets a little bit of a bump. He's a guy you could look to against the Suns at this salary. In terms of very cheap plays, though, if we're looking under 5K for value, if DeAndre Hunter plays today, I think he's an option with Cam Reddish already out. But that's probably it for power forward. Dwayne Dedmon was out last game, and Harry Giles did get the start at center. Played only 17 minutes, but was very productive with 27 DK points. Who knows how many minutes he plays, but if Dedmon were to sit, I would assume he gets about 20 minutes, potentially more. He's a very productive player, so he would still be in play at 3,500, especially because he does have power forward and center eligibility. Dario Saric was out. He isn't traveling with the Suns on their 3-game road trip, so yeah, he's going to be out again. So that just solidifies a guy like Mikal Bridges, who I already talked about. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about center real quick, just before we end the video. So at the top, Karl Anthony Towns, 10,600. I do like quite a bit today. I think he is one of the better center options to pay up for. Towns is back to being the elite fantasy monster that he was at the middle part of the season before he got injured, playing 34, 36 minutes a night, giving you 50 to 60 DraftKings points most nights. Against the Kings, he's had a lot of success in this matchup in the past. I know he did struggle against them earlier this season with only 39 DK points in 40 minutes, but this is easily a winnable matchup for Towns, especially with how injury depleted the Kings front court is right now. At 10-6, especially because we should have a lot of value today, I think Towns going to be a guy and try and pay up for if I can. Should be enough value to get to him if that's the route you want to take. I think Drummond against the Grizzlies looks pretty appealing as well. I mean, Drummond just continues to put up very consistent numbers. 30 minutes, fouled out against Denver, but still had 52 DK points. This is a guy that's going to give you 45 to 50 DK points most nights. If Derrick Rose were to be out, that would just boost Drummond even more. Drummond does get a slight bump in usage, and his assist percentage goes up a little bit when you take Rose off the floor. He's still very affordable on DK at 9,400. So I think Cat and Drummond both look pretty appealing as spend-up options at center. Vucevic, more of a tournament play, but I do want to mention him because the matchup is so good against the Hornets. He's so similarly priced, though, to guys like Drummond. You have like Ayton for cheaper, who we're going to talk about. That keeps Vooch from being like a core play today, but if I'm playing multiple lineups, like I definitely want exposure to Nikola Vucevic. This is a smash spot against the Hornets. We know how good this matchup has been, or how targetable this matchup has been, how profitable it's been. Centers against the Hornets, been a matchup I've looked to target all season. Terrible team against the bigs, defensive team against bigs. Very bad rebounding team as well. Like this could be a big-time blow-up spot for Nikola Vucevic. But DeAndre Ayton, I think, is probably my favorite center play. I really like him on Draftkings at only 7,700. I think he stands out the most, especially given this matchup against Brooklyn. Brooklyn's just always been a team you target with bigs, and nothing's changed this season. Pretty sure in terms of like DVP stats, they've allowed, I believe, the 4th or 5th most fantasy points to centers. Even with DeAndre Jordan on this team, like they're still a team that really struggles allowing fantasy points to centers. So Ayton's in a smash spot. I like him on DraftKings at 7,700. On Yahoo at $36, I think he looks very appealing over there as well. DeAndre Ayton should smash in this spot. While Aaron Baines remains out, like he is clearly their go-to center. I mean, they're going to play him huge minutes if the game is close. Game against Milwaukee was a blowout. He only got 30 minutes. This game against Brooklyn should stay close. We should expect Ayton to play, I'd say probably 34 to 36 minutes, if not more. This is easily a guy that can go for 50-plus DK points. Can easily go for 20 and 15 with a couple steals, couple blocks. 50 DraftKings points feels like an easy, I wouldn't say floor for Ayton, but an easy projection. I mean, there might be guys you look at that, or there might be sites you look at that have Ayton projected close to 50 DK points. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Smash spot for him, and the price is too low in this matchup. So love DeAndre Ayton today at center. Valanciunas at 7,100 is fine to go to as well. This is a smash spot for him against Andre Drummond. Drummond has been terrible defensively this season, and as of late, he has really struggled defensively. If you played DFS Sunday, you saw what Nikola Jokic did to Drummond. I think Jokic had like 80 fantasy points against him. Like Drummond's just really struggling on the defensive end right now. So Valanciunas should have a lot of success in this matchup, and if he gets 30-plus minutes, which he has been recently, could easily go for 40-plus DK points, which is solid at 7,100. But if I can find the salary, I would much rather play DeAndre Ayton, who looks like an amazing play at 7,700. Jared Allen against the Suns, I like him on the other side of this game. 6,700 is a pretty expensive price tag. If I can find $400, like I'd probably rather play Joe Val over Allen. I think Allen stands out most on Yahoo. He's still very affordable there, $23. Been getting good run recently. We know he's not going to play massive minutes, especially with DeAndre Jordan healthy. He's going to get about 26 to 28 minutes though. I would say more on the upper end of that, like 28, probably 29 minutes most nights for Jared Allen. And he's been really productive as of late, 34, 33, 44 fantasy points. This is a really good matchup. DeAndre Ayton, although he's a very good offensive center, not that good on the defensive end. So I do like both centers in this game quite a bit. I like both centers in this game. I think both have a ton of upside and really favorable matchups. But other centers we could look to that I haven't already talked about, not much stands out in terms of guys I haven't touched on. Like Tristan Thompson, his price tag has plummeted, but he's just not been doing anything recently. The minutes have been down as well, like not getting the 34, 36 minutes he was getting. He's playing like 24 to 26 minutes right now. So it's hard to have a ton of confidence in him, even at a really cheap price. In terms of value plays at center, like Maxi Kleber, Willie Cauley-Stein, I was pretty heavy on both those guys Saturday night with Porzingis out, but now that Porzingis is back, don't really want to go to those guys. Mitchell Robinson, I think he's probable, so he's expected to play. Really no value there. I think that's pretty much it for center values. I think we covered everything at this position. Enes Kanter, I think he's actually has a chance to play. He's questionable. If Enes Kanter is able to play today and he's not limited, like if we get 22 to 24 minutes from Enes Kanter off the bench against the Hawks, like he could easily go for 30-plus DK points. It is a hip injury, so maybe that could limit him, but if Kanter plays and is not limited, especially with Kemba out, like he does see a bump in usage with Kemba out. I actually like him quite a bit as a value option, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see if he's going to be able to play today and if he's going to be limited or not. So I think that's it for center, guys. I think we covered everything here. I think that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. As always, I do greatly appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. You can also click that notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. Feel free to drop a follow on Twitter, or drop me a follow on Twitter as well. I'm very active over there. If you want to check out my Twitter, link is down below in the description, at DFS by Noah. Also, link down in the description is my Patreon. If you do want to get access to my exclusive NBA content that I post Monday through Friday, I do have a lot of updated and in-depth content over on Patreon, so you can check that out as well. Link down in the description. But best of luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. Thanks for supporting the channel. Love you guys. Good luck. Peace.